Welcome to Treadmill Talks with Shannon Maves, a podcast for athletes and fitness enthusiasts to pass the time during mind-numbing cardio while I use my no-bullshit coaching style to educate, inspire, and entertain. I'm your host, Shannon Maves. Now let's walk and talk. Hello, and welcome to episode 67 of Treadmill Talks, the one where we stop making excuses. This episode is going to be a little bit different than most of my other ones because what I have done today is compiled a list of some of the most common excuses I hear from people that don't want to work out or eat right. So today's topic is a bit less educational and maybe more so motivational, or just a little bit of a kick in the ass, because let's be real, we can all use some tough love from time to time. And I am the type of coach who is not afraid to give tough love when it is needed. Don't get me wrong, I will cheer my clients on when they are killing it, and I will be their biggest hype woman. But if they're slacking off or making excuses, I'm going to call them out on their bullshit. And I'm hoping that this episode will help to give at least one of you the slap in the face that you've been needing to finally get your shit together. Because even a good excuse is still an excuse. And nobody likes excuses. They're fucking annoying. So I want to help you balls up and learn how to make solutions rather than excuses. Now, the first excuse that I hear all the time, probably more so than any of the other excuses, is I don't have time to work out. Here is why that is a bullshit excuse. Nobody has the time to work out. You have to make the time to do what is important to you. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that you do not have the time, all I hear is it's not a priority. I'm actually pretty fucking sympathetic to people who are insanely busy. I'm not the coach that's going to sit here and say shit like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, because we don't. But I've also seen single working moms get their ass into the gym 5 days per week because it's important to them. Even if you truly do not have the time to get in an hour workout 5 days per week, get in 30 minutes 3 days per week. Something is better than nothing. You could even just go for a 10-minute walk every day during your lunch break or after dinner, or make whatever small little changes that you can fit into your day to increase your activity. Start tracking how much time you spend watching Netflix, how much time you spend scrolling Instagram or whatever. Years ago, I worked a job from 8 to 5 every day. My commute each way was about an hour during rush hour. And I hated how much time I spent sitting on my ass in traffic. So I actually changed my training schedule to leave the house early as fuck just to save myself about 30 minutes of driving. So instead of training at the gym that was close to my house and then going to work during rush hour, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and drive straight to the gym that was next to my work, because traffic was significantly lighter earlier in the morning. And then when I was done training, I was just right there next to work. Then I would also go back to that same gym after work to do my cardio while traffic was bonkers during the afternoon rush hour. And this would save me another 20 or 30 minutes on my way home, because I would just drive home a little bit later. And there, my cardio and my resistance training was done. I saved like an hour of time sitting in traffic that I was able to put towards the gym by making these changes. And obviously, I know that it's not possible for everyone to do this exact scenario, but that's just an example of how you can think outside the box to make time. And while I'm on the topic of time, another excuse I hear is not having time to cook or meal prep. And here is why that is a bullshit excuse. First of all, do you even realize the world that we live in nowadays? There are so many meal prep delivery services. Grocery stores have tons of grab and go options. And there are plenty of meals that you can cook faster than it would take you to get in your car, drive down the street, wait in the drive-through line at fucking McDonald's, and then drive back home. You could probably walk into the grocery store and grab one of their pre-made options faster than it would take to get through the drive-through line of Chick-fil-A during the dinner rush. And you'd get some extra activity in by increasing your daily steps by walking into the grocery store. Hell, even gas stations are starting to carry more nutrition options. And then there's also Instacart. Have your groceries brought right to you. You can order them while you're taking a shit if you're really that busy. But I'd also bet that you're just not making time to prioritize your nutrition. I hate cooking chicken, but I eat a shit ton of it. So what I have found works for me is that rather than prepping my chicken every Sunday or whatever, I buy pounds and pounds of it from Costco about once per month. And then I take just a little bit more time, 1 day per month, to prep it all. I bake it, dice it up, and then I put it into little baggies to freeze in the freezer. It's what works for me so that I am not having to make the time to do this every weekend, but rather just once a month. Find a solution. Don't make excuses. The next excuse is, I'll start tomorrow or Monday or next week, next month, after vacation, after my birthday, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. Stop procrastinating. Even if you aren't 100% on point over the weekend or on vacation or whatever, trying to be at least a little better and more mindful is progress. Why would you want to set yourself back even further before you start? It's just going to make your life even harder when you do decide to start. You don't need to be perfect, but stop putting it off. There will never be a perfect time to start. And telling yourself shit like, I'll start tomorrow, kind of instills this thought process of like, you'll do it when it's convenient. And then when it suddenly becomes inconvenient, you're just going to quit again. Start now. And don't use this next excuse either. I already blew it for the day, or I already blew it for the weekend or the week, whatever. Just because you fell off track for 1 single second doesn't mean you should say, fuck it. If you got a flat tire, you would put on a spare to get wherever you need to go, and then you would replace it. So if you miss a workout or you eat off plan, don't say, fuck it. Just do what you can do right now to get back on track. This procrastination, I'll do it tomorrow, it doesn't matter since I already fucked up type of mindset is a bullshit excuse. Find a solution. Another excuse I hear a lot that actually really irritates me, like kind of on a deep personal level, is when people say, I just like food too much. Bitch, what? Are you serious? Do you even realize how much I fucking love food? How much most people love food? Food is fucking delicious. Food is more than just fuel. Food is pleasure. It's culture. It's celebration. And it is meant to be enjoyed. Of course you like food. But that's not an excuse to eat like an asshole. Learn how to cook nutritious food in a way you enjoy. Learn how to practice moderation with the more indulgent things you enjoy. Act like you give a shit about yourself and your body and eat real food. Real food meaning meat, veggies, grains, nuts, fruits. Real food is not pizza, burgers, and ice cream. That's just what society has turned, quote, real food into. Liking food too much is one of the most obnoxious excuses I hear. A kind of similar but more understandable excuse I get a lot is, I don't want to feel restricted. And I get that because diet culture does push a lot of restrictive shit. First, it's claims like you can't eat fats because they'll make you fat. Nowadays, carbs are the enemy. Or maybe you've been told more specifically that you shouldn't eat gluten or dairy or whatever else. Unless you actually have an allergy to those things, there are ways to achieve your goals without feeling restricted. Maybe this one isn't as much of an excuse as it could potentially be a misunderstanding, because I'm sure a lot of people truly don't realize that there are other more sustainable ways to achieve your goals, but I'm still including it. And the next one that is fairly similar is I don't want to have to track my food, which I personally 1000% relate to this one because I hated the idea of tracking food before I did it. I actually didn't track during my first 2 competition preps. And my third one, I just tracked calories and protein. Then by my 4th prep, I was finally tracking all of my macros. And now it's honestly just like a way of life for me, truly. But I eased myself into it. Tracking is a skill and it takes practice. You can't expect to track for a day or 2 and be hitting triple zeros with your macros. And you also don't have to track to achieve your goals. Like I said, my first 2 competition preps, I didn't track my food. I had a meal plan for the first one and I ate intuitively for the second one. And I was just mindful of my portion sizes and how lean I needed to get. There are other methods than tracking. I do think that tracking is an unbelievably valuable life skill that I wish everybody could have because you can learn so much about nutrition and about yourself when you start tracking your food. But I get it, it's not for everyone. But saying you can't or won't achieve your goals just because you don't want to track your food is a bullshit excuse. Find a solution. The next excuse is, I'm just too hungry. If you find yourself saying this, please go back and listen to the last couple of episodes that I released about hunger and eliminating food focus, which is kind of about managing hunger. Because being hungry is not a bad thing, especially if you're in a fat loss phase. Learn how to embrace the hunger or use reverse psychology to convince yourself that you're not actually that hungry. Or just suck it the fuck up. Or no, you know what? Better yet, imagine telling somebody who doesn't have access to food or drinking water that you are purposely trying to eat less because you have too much food readily available to you and it's so tempting that you just overeat it all the time. Count your blessings. Being purposefully hungry is a privilege. Now, on the opposite end, another excuse that I do hear as a coach that is less common, but it still happens, is I'm just not hungry. So people will not eat. Now, a lot of times this is from a client who has been chronically dieting and is very much not in touch with their internal hunger cues, or their hormones are so out of whack that they truly do not feel the sensation of hunger. But sometimes it's from a client who is in a building phase and they just need to eat more in order to put on weight. Whatever the case is, if you have a coach and are on a plan where you are supposed to eat a certain amount of food and you just don't because you're just not hungry, what I hear as a coach is, I just don't care. Again, maybe this is less of an excuse for someone if they don't have a coach or they maybe have a shitty coach. But if I have a client who is struggling to eat enough food, I am going to do everything in my power to help them figure out a way to make it happen. Learn how to deal with your hunger or lack of hunger and don't use it as an excuse. Another excuse is, I just couldn't resist. And this one, I mean, okay, if you're working on food relationships or you're new to a plan or something, is somewhat understandable Because if you've been restricting yourself for a long time and are suddenly faced with massive temptation, it's of course going to be harder to resist. But honestly, listen to yourself. I just couldn't resist. What if a guy said that about grabbing a girl's boob? Fucking control yourself. Not knowing how to control your impulses is a bullshit excuse. My dog struggles to control her impulses, but you're not a fucking dog. Okay? Don't use that as an excuse. Next one. It's hard to eat healthy when you have kids. Granted, I do not personally have children, but I do have plenty of clients and friends who have children. And I always remind them that you are the gatekeeper of your kitchen. And you should also lead by example. If you don't want temptation in the house, don't put temptation in the house. Your kids will survive and probably eat more nutritiously. Growing up, my mom would make us dinner, and that's what we got or nothing at all. Be a fucking parent and don't use your kids as an excuse. All right, next one. Diets don't work for me. Excuse. You may have tried every diet in the world, but have you ever actually commit to a lifestyle? Stop listening to all of the celebrity endorsements. Half of them don't actually do or take whatever it is that they're promoting. Learn how to make sustainable changes and stop making fucking excuses. Now, the next few excuses are more along the lines of reasons not to work out. The first one is because you're injured, which is pretty valid. But like I said, even a good excuse is still an excuse. If you hurt your shoulder, train legs. If you hurt your knee, train upper body. If you can't run, swim. Do some physical therapy and take care of your shit instead of making excuses. Moving on. Next one. I hate working out. Seriously? I hate paying taxes, but I do it because I don't really feel like going to prison. I hated going to work before I created the job that I love, but I went to work every day so that I could afford to quit and now work a job that I love. If you hate running, go swimming. If you hate CrossFit, try bodybuilding. If you hate yoga, try Zumba. There are so many different types of workouts nowadays that not liking exercise is a bullshit excuse. And to be honest, usually once you start doing something consistently, you start to like it more and more. I didn't love lifting weights when I started, but I just kept doing it. And now I'm obsessed with it. I hate when I have to go more than a day without training because it's fun to me now. And even if you truly do hate every single form of exercise, shut the fuck up and be an adult. Do what is good for you. Your 80-year-old self will thank you for it when you are able to get on and off the toilet by yourself. I'm being serious. Okay, anyways, next one. Kind of two, actually. I'm too intimidated to go to the gym, or I want to lose some weight before I go to the gym. You have to remember that literally everyone was a beginner at one point. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger had his first day in the gym. Don't be afraid to be a beginner. And if you feel intimidated by the other people in the gym, I want to assure you of a couple of things. One is that they don't give a shit about you because they are there to work on themselves. For real. They're flexing in the mirror looking at themselves, not you. Two is that if they are looking at you, chances are they're probably cheering you on. I love when I see new people in the gym because getting started is the hardest part. And what's even cooler is when I see those new people start to show up consistently. And then I get to witness their transformation. The people in the gym are not judging you. Don't worry about that. Seriously. And if they are judging you, fuck them. They're a douchebag that you don't want to be friends with anyway. Being new to the gym is not an excuse to skip the gym. Neither is lack of motivation, which is the next excuse I hear a lot. I'm just not motivated. No shit. Motivation is fleeting. You will never always be motivated. You have to start to become disciplined. Again, I'm not motivated to do my taxes, but I write it into my schedule and I get it done every fucking year. Actually, every quarter because I'm running a business. But anyway, exercise should just be part of your day or at least your week. It's just something you do, whether you're motivated or not. Sure, your workouts when you're motivated are probably going to be more enjoyable than when you're not feeling it, but just enjoy those days when they happen and push through the other days and find a way to fucking get it done. Or find something to motivate you. My motivation is that I'm still not where I want to be, and I never will be. So it works because I get to use that as my motivation every day. Fuck motivation. Learn some discipline. Next excuse is I travel too much. If you are somebody who has the luxury of traveling often, then I am going to assume that you have the financial means to stay in a hotel that has a gym or to pay for a day pass at a local gym while you're away. And if I'm wrong, and maybe your work pays for you to go everywhere and you don't have access to a gym, then do some type of body weight exercises in your hotel room, or go for a run, or go for a walk. Do something other than making excuses. Something is better than nothing. You could also train hard as fuck while you're at home and then treat your travel as a deload. Travel is an unbelievable privilege. Do not use that as an excuse. Okay, this next one might be slightly controversial. I don't know. But I think that saying I'm depressed is an excuse. And it's not that I'm denying how real depression is. I've been depressed in my life. Depression is very real. And I understand how hard it can be to do something as simple as just get out of bed in the morning when you're depressed. But if you don't try and you just accept that you're depressed, then that is an excuse. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. You don't have to go to the gym every single day or hit your nutrition perfectly, but just try. Lying in bed all day eating Doritos is not going to help your depression. If you need to do that once in a while, okay. But I can only have so much sympathy. Fucking try to do something good for yourself. And then there's the people on the entirely opposite side of the spectrum. And they're the ones who are like, do it myself, which I guess isn't really an excuse, but it is when they're the type of person who maybe has a specific goal and they keep trying to do it themselves and they're not achieving that goal. And then saying that they don't want to hire a coach because they can do it themselves. And I'm over here just like, really? Because you've been doing it yourself for a pretty long time now, and it's still not happening. Don't be afraid to ask for or even hire help. Even coaches have coaches. I think the fact that coaches have coaches should be a good enough indication of how valuable having a coach is. And the last excuse that I want to call bullshit on today is the people who say they cannot afford a coach. again, okay, I know that this is actually pretty relative because if your goal is to just be active and healthy and you're doing it on your own successfully, then cool. Maybe you don't need to hire a coach. But if you're struggling to live a healthy lifestyle, then how can you honestly tell me that you can't afford help? If we look at the big picture, getting fit and healthy could potentially save you tons on medications and surgeries in the future. It could completely eliminate future doctor visits that all cost money. Not to mention, it's going to improve your quality of life. And that shit is priceless. But okay, I swear I'm not trying to turn this into a sales pitch. I just genuinely think that your health is worth investing in. And a lot of people who use these types of excuses are just getting in their own way. They're spending money buying designer purses or other material items that aren't going to last. And the way I see it is we have one body to live this life in. So I'm going to invest in that body way before I go buying some fucking Louis Vuitton bag. I'm going to skip a meal out if it means that I can put that money towards a gym membership or a coach or a visit to the chiropractor or whatever else I need. Because health is wealth. And I know there are plenty of people in this world who genuinely cannot afford those things. I count my blessings every fucking day to be living the life that I live. And I hope you do too. I also hope that nobody got too offended by anything in this episode. I'm sure I'm going to get at least one person DMing me with some type of argument, but hopefully something I said struck a chord with you, at least one of you, and maybe it gave you the kick in the ass that you've been needing. I also want to acknowledge that there is always more to a situation than meets the eye. And I'm not always a total dick. I'm actually pretty sympathetic to a lot of these situations, but I also hear a lot of bullshit excuses. And I have to give some tough love from time to time. It's honestly not my favorite. I actually don't really like when I have to come down hard on a client, but sometimes it's necessary. And sometimes we need to look a little deeper at what is actually going on, because there can definitely be some underlying reasons for a lot of these excuses. And I like to work with my clients to address that. So if after listening to this episode, you don't completely hate me and you think that you might benefit from a coach who isn't afraid to call you out on your shit, then click the link in the show notes to apply to work with me. And if you just liked this episode and you want to share it with someone who needs a little bit of a reality check, then I would love for you to share this episode as well, or giving Treadmill Talks a follow. That's also very much appreciated. And leaving a rating or review is even better. But all in all, if you are still listening after all of this, just know how much I appreciate you. And thank you again for listening. Thank you for listening to Treadmill Talks. If this episode taught you something, lit a fire under your ass, or at least helped you forget how long you've been walking in place, please leave a review or take a screenshot to share on your social media. Don't forget to tag me at Shannon Maves so I can give you some love right back. And thanks again for listening to my Treadmill Talk.